Learning how to hip hinge is a really important motion to learn how to move primarily from your hips and not excessively from your spine. When we think about the way our body is designed to move, our hips are designed to have a lot of motion and they also generate a lot of power. That's why there's all these big muscles that surround them. Our spine's job is to create stability and stiffness, and we have smaller muscles, a lot of them, but their job is not to create a lot of power. So when we're lifting, we're moving, we want to make sure that we move from our hips and not from our back. So if I start in a sitting position, and my feet flat on the ground at a good height for me, so my hips are slightly above my knee height. As I lean forward, and I want to make sure that I'm hinging from my hips, so I'm almost bowing forward, I feel more weight go into my feet, right? And this stops me from falling on my face. And now as I push down through my feet, I feel my quads activate, I feel my glutes activate, and that pulls me back up to upright. Right? And I can just practice that hinging forward and pushing through my feet. And as I lean forward, I accept weight into my feet. As I push into my feet, it brings me back to upright. I could do this without having active legs in a lazier way, and this would be excessive motion at my spine, right? I can slump forward and sit back up, but this is all motion that's coming from my spinal muscles, and these muscles are going to get tired over time, and this area doesn't like moving excessively when it doesn't have to. It's not designed for that. The ball and socket of our hips, with the big muscles that surround the hips, they're meant for that repeated motion and creating power over time. So we can practice this drill that we hip hinge and push through our feet. And notice that my spine is straight, even though it's angling, but it's still staying straight, right? And the muscles of my spine are keeping that straightness. Now, as I progress this, I want to hip hinge into a full stand, right? So as I lean forward, I get my weight over my feet, and now I can lift my butt up off the seat and push myself upright. And this whole time, as I do this back in reverse, right, my spine is staying straight. Now, is it changing angles? Of course it is. That motion is coming from the pivot point of my hips. So this hip hinging technique is a great way for us to practice and reinforce movement coming from the hips. Whether we're starting a new motion, whether it's a squat or anything like that, we want to push our hips back, right? So we load up that posterior chain, or we're just going to sit down into a chair. We want to push those hips back so we can place our butt down, as opposed to most people that start to sit down by bending with their knees, and then what they do is they kind of just fall and land, right? We don't want to do that. We want to have control throughout that motion, and we do that by pushing our butt back and our shoulders forward so we can control that weight as it moves up and down. That's how we do the hip hinge correctly.